is a beautiful landscape here in the Berkshire Mountains in western Connecticut. So if you haven't made the trek out here, highly encourage you to do so next year. It is one day.
All right, it looks like our group here is just now starting to form up, getting ready to come through that right-hander there, that westbound that I was talking about. They're going to come down the hill. There you go, underneath the Airstream Bridge. Then they're going to come up to San Posey Strait. And gentlemen, we should be getting ready to have our start for our sprint green group number 2. We'll talk about, they did do a number 1 yesterday, and it does look like we are getting ready to go green. We have one car there coming in the back, and it looks like we are green here.
We are green here.
Racing.
We are ready to go.
Very good. We are racing here at Lime Rock. Ken Agna on the pole right there in that 57 machine. John Patton in the number 3. It does look like they're going to go side by side down into turn 1. It does look like John Patton's probably going to go ahead and take that early lead as he's got that inside line there. And Andreas going through. Now you've got to throw in Will Waldron in that number 7 machine. He's starting to make a move on Ken Agna. Again, it's raining. These drivers are going through. They've got wet rain tires on. You've got to tiptoe through, especially through here, Andreas.
Don't want to forget as well, 29, Robbie Wilson at the pack too. So once folks come right around the bend here to the front straight, we get a feel for how the cars are shaping up in this first lap here today.
Yeah, I tell you what, going up through this first hit, you can see very, very tiptoe. I talked about that hill. On a dry track, you're getting as much as you can. Robbie Wilson has been really, really strong in the Spec Boxster class. We've seen him all the way down in Sebring. Did very well in Sebring. Saw him at VIR, did really well at VIR. Saw him as well in that number 029 machine at Road Atlanta, picked up the win. The lighter cars are going to be a little bit better in this condition. It looks like John Patton's going to take the early lead here in that number 3 machine. That's in that Spec Porsche 3 class. He is actually racing Will Waldron in that 07 along with Ken Agna. That's your battle in Spec 3. In Spec Boxster early on here, Robbie Wilson leading over Noah Mazzola in that number 5 machine. He's got about a 3-second lead, but, you know, Andreas, these times are going to be a little bit slower because of this wet condition.
That's right, Brian, and I've seen this race for a few years. I will say, at least from my standpoint early on, it doesn't look like these guys are driving much slower than they usually do in regular conditions. That's probably a result of the tires that they have on. So I will say that the competition is there, and it doesn't add a new element to it. So we shied away from the rain. I'm sorry, it does add for a new experience here.
No, absolutely, 100% agree with you. You know, we talked about this earlier on, where we had some of this racing yesterday, right? This group went out and did their first race yesterday in that SP3 class. Ken Agna, he ended up picking up the win there along with Will Waldron and John Patton. That was your top 3 in SP3. And Spec Boxster, again, we talked about him a minute ago in Robbie Wilson. Joseph Viola in the 019. Coming out, picking up a second place win, or a second place position in there. Alex Au in that 79 machine. He picked up 3rd in Spec Boxster. We did have Alex Hale in that 776 machine, picked up the win in GT4. And we'll get to some of these other classes. Right now it looks like we've got 7 different classes right now that are on track in this first green group. So again, trying to tiptoe, 30 minutes, got to take care of the equipment, but you also got to make sure that, you know, you've got these cars under control.
It is a busy field, but once again, that makes for the extra element of racing. We are finishing up the 3rd lap. John Patton still in the lead, entering the 4th lap, and that's that Spec 3. All top 3 right now, John Patton, Will Waldron, and Agna, and then, as you mentioned earlier, Robbie Wilson in the 29 car at Boxster.
Yeah, as we get a little bit further back, it looks like we have that battle there between Robbie Wilson and Noah Mazzola and that Spec Boxster getting ready to come down the front stretch right here. So again, a really good battle in our Spec Boxster class. A little bit further back is Alex Au in that number 79 machine, but he's a little bit further back. You can see here, we're going to go 2, 3, almost 4 wide, Andreas, as we head down into turn 1. So these drivers getting everything they can through from the downhill all the way into turn one, getting as much. You can see some of these drivers still tiptoeing. Some of them, they've got that car control well in hand, and that enables them to propel themselves all the way up and make that too wide through turn one.
Something to note here that the rain has stopped. Obviously, the track is still quite wet. We have a momentary break in the rain. We are actually monitoring the radar here. There is some storm cells moving into the area, so this is going to be a continual theme throughout the day. I think this is the weather that we are racing for today, so drivers will need to adjust to that. But as of right now, there's a small drizzle of rain.
What it does to a driver, if you've never raced in the rain, and I guarantee you a lot of these drivers, it looks like to go a couple, almost too wide there. That looks like that may have been a little bit further back with Alex out, Christopher Fahey in that 350 machine in that 02 box, or in that silver machine as they were coming down the downhill. We'll get back to the what I was talking about with the driver's mindset coming into a race. But when you get into certain positions and certain predicaments on this racetrack, not only are you battling the handling of the race car, but as a driver, you're battling, you've got that windshield wiper going back and forth. It does take your mind a little bit out there, especially when you come through this section of the racetrack, which is really that coming through Big Bend, which is the turn one and turn two, and then you got the left-hander and then the immediate right-hander to go up the backstroke there. So again, that plays a lot into it, and these drivers definitely giving a lot of room, which is really good to see it early.
Something interesting too in yesterday's weather you talked about yesterday. We did have one of the races yesterday. Originally planned for 3 different races today. We actually had 2 in all the classes. So we've got with that first race, we had much different conditions. It was sunny. It was in the mid-70s yesterday here at Limelight Park. So that is an element here too. They're talking about those times later, but John Patton with the best lap time thus far with 1 minute 9 seconds, 5:17. Just a few split seconds after that, Magna. Robbie Wilson from the Spec Boxster class, best lap thus far, 1 minute 13 seconds, 5:16. A couple seconds slower than what we would see in normal conditions, but again, it's early on, so the drivers are just getting adjusted. Still pretty strong times given the weather conditions. It is quite complicated. You just have to watch how drivers handle it. It's nice to see early on, as you mentioned, Brian, the spacing from sticking to easy on the first race. It is quite competitive here.
Yeah, when you get, again, we've talked about this, pretty much all year long, from our coverage of Sebring to VIR to Road Atlanta, you get this, this multi-class racing. Again, having this multi-class racing, really, you have to understand who you're racing with and then who you're racing against. You don't want to get mixed up in somebody else's race. And I think that, in this group, which, this first group is presented by USRC, so great to have them on board in this first, actually their second sprint race, first sprint race of the day here. But when you start to intermingle and mix up those races, it really throws a challenge, and especially with the weather that we have today, you have to understand what's going on. It is a full-fledged, driver's focus to get through this. I've driven in the rain many, many times, and you have to focus as much as you can. So, again, a lot of racing action going on, but still a lot of room being given here in this class.
I want to mention some other drivers here. The ME1 class, car number 253, Christopher Fahey. He is leading that group. Spec 2, number 52, Joe Dillon. His best lap time there, 1 minute 11 seconds, 11. So he's in an 88.924. It's an interesting class there. And right after him is 27, Pelletier, and he's in the yellow 87 car.
Yeah, Christopher Fahey got a pretty big gap on his next competitor in his class, and Frank Osborne in that 313. And again, Christopher winning yesterday's Sprint 1. And then you had Gene Raimondi, who was in the 78. He actually took second yesterday, and then Frank Osborne in the third position. So the last step on the podium going to him. As we look at across the board here with some of these, we talked about our SP3 class, John Patton, Will Waldron. That race right there, Patton is in the yellow number 3. I believe that is him right there in that machine, coming underneath the bridge past the start-finish line. The next car there is the white 07 of Will Waldron heading down in. So where that gap was 1.1 seconds, that gap is now under 0.6 of a second. So again, pretty close to there. Then you've got Ken Agnon a little bit further back. He's 4.5 seconds back. But it does look like Ken, who has been pretty dominant in this class over the last, for 2025 right now, is starting to reel them in a little bit as those two are going to start to battle. We look a little bit further back. We'll look at our Spec Boxster, and I believe Robbie Wilson in the blue 029. We'll try to pick him up as well. That is a battle there with Noah Mazzola in that number 5. I believe that may be Robbie right there going into the screen. That may not be. That may be. We'll have to take a look at a little bit clearer picture. But Robbie Wilson only 0.2 of a second coming through. So as they come up underneath and come up the uphill right now, yeah, that's definitely Robbie Wilson right there. And Noah Mazzola and Grace. That's a pretty good battle. Mazzola's really getting a good run here because Robbie Wilson's been pretty much the race of the field the last couple of weeks.
We're about halfway through the first race here on Saturday here. So a lot more racing to come, but it's about halfway through.
Yeah, as these drivers start to wind down a little bit, I'll tell you what, Andreas, why don't we go ahead and make a first call to the grid for our next group, which would be our orange group. Attention in the paddock, attention in the paddock. Orange group, first call to the grid for your Sprint 2 race. Orange group, first call to the grid for your Orange 2 race. So again, we've just got about 13 and a half minutes left to go. So I tell you what, why don't we go ahead and take our first break. Thanks some partners and sponsors here. When we come back, we'll pick up the rest of this action. And we'll be right back from Lime Rock as the 33rd annual Connecticut Valley Region, the Racing into Spring, continues.
Pirelli and Porsche have been a winning combination around the racing world for years. Pirelli is proud to bring that relationship to PCA Club Racing yet again in 2025. Make sure to see the guys from Frisbee and find the right Pirelli tire for your vehicle, or check them out on the web at frisbeeracetire.com. Pirelli powers nothing without control. When you pack up from the raceway and head home on the highway, remember that the engineering excellence Michelin strives for in racing is applicable to our passenger and light truck tires too. Michelin is proud to continue its national sponsorship of Porsche Club of America and Club Racing. Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires.
Looking to decrease lap times on the track without an engine overhaul? GT Racing has a wide range of fiberglass and carbon fiber body panels, along with European Racing headers, exhaust systems to lighten your car and accelerate all the potential horsepower of your engine. Time for a change? Convert your 944 into a turbo or a 924 GT, or your 911 to a 911 RS, RSR, or 935. Talk with Joel at GT Racing. He'll help you choose the winning combination of lightweight Porsche parts and header systems to set you on the right track. GT Racing is your one-stop shop for your Porsche needs. GT Racing is a national sponsor and proudly sponsors tech inspections at PCA Club Races. GT Racing also sponsors the Best Prepared Car Award, a $100 gift certificate at each race. Call Joel at GT Racing today at 1-800-797-2911 or find us on the web at www.gt-racing.com.
Our first club racing sponsor, Porsche Cars North America, funds the club racing news and sponsors the Workers' Choice Award, considered the most prestigious award given at a club race. Thank you to PCA for offering vital support to our club racing program.
Welcome back to Lime Rock here, the 33rd annual Connecticut Valley Region Racing into Spring 2025. tell you what, gentlemen, as this race continues on, the battles are starting to heat up over and over again. They're continuing on the racetrack. There you see, it looks like Will Waldron now is going to take over that lead, Andreas, in SP3 in that 07. So drop John Patton back a little bit further in that number 3 machine, where Patton was leading overall almost the entire race. As we went to break, it looks like Will Waldron is going to take over in that 07 machine. I think that a lot of that had to do with coming up on some flat traffic.
Yeah, I'll mention as well for the Spec Boxster class, another tight race to watch. Robbie Wilson and Noah Mazzola really battling it out here. We are about 13 laps in for this first race, so this is quite interesting to watch. And then mention as well, Spec 2, Joe Dillon and Luke Pelliter. Once again, this is a very interesting race to watch here.
Yeah, again, as we talked about right before we went to break, pretty much we have really 4 different classes in here. And you and I were talking during the break, and we've got, how many regions do we have participating in this, which I thought was a phenomenal number here coming to life.
We have seen at least during the break too, the blue flag did come out for a few times, so our track workers want to give a nod to them. Many of them volunteers returning the year here, both our regional and national volunteers, and couldn't do this race enough.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about during the break, we've got almost 16 different regions, or 16 regions, supporting this. So
absolutely,
again, fantastic turnout across the board. So
yeah, we have quite a few racers. I want to say 16 different regions and 5 different PCA zones represented. Obviously, Connecticut Valley and Metro New York leading the pack. We have 24 racers from CVR, Connecticut Valley region, but Metro New York with 6. But we do have folks coming from Potomac, the Gold Coast, Chicago, Hurricane region down southeast. So quite a diverse representation of racers here today. So I want to thank them, our other PCA regions and zones for the support here.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic showing. As we look at this race here a little bit further, again, Will Waldron in that 07 machine, he just set the fastest lap of the race in that 07 machine. So again, track's starting to not completely dry out, but cars are getting faster. They're starting to take this up, starting to dry this up a little bit as they go. So Will Waldron with that 108.392.
Great observation.
A little bit
Great
further.
to see.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit further back here. I want to pick up, if we can, Spencer, and that's, we'll look for the Joe Dillon in the 944, the white, blue, and red machine there. Over Luke Peltier in that 627 machine. That's our SP2 class. Kind of look to see if we can't find them. That is about, it's opened up now a little bit by about a second, but at one point, Joe Dillon in that 52 machine held a lead over Luke. It was under a 1/10 of a second there at one point. But now that seems to have opened up a little bit. And we look, Joe Dillon picked up that win yesterday as well in that sprint number 1 over Peltier in that 627. William Johnson picking up the last podium spot again here, of course, in 3rd place in this one here. So as we look at some of our other groups here, Spec Boxster, we talked about Robbie Wilson, Noah Mazzola, Alex Al in that number 79 machine. It's a bit further back. Wilson's opened that up by about 1 second now over Mazzola, and I think because they're coming into some lap traffic there, and they're having some difficulties running through that and getting stuck. You can see Ken Agnon just now going out of your screen there. I believe this is where we come up to the Robbie Wilson in that blue 97 Boxster, Noah Mazzola in that white one a little bit further back. So looks like going through some lap traffic here causing a problem. But some of these drivers here, Andreas, they are starting to set their fastest time. We look a little bit further back in Spec Boxster. Ryan Farragut in that number 29 machine, that black and orange one, set his fastest lap on lap 14 with a 1:14.708. So pretty good run with Ryan. Ryan's been doing really well in that Boxster this year, and we're actually going to see his daughter here later on this afternoon when we get to our vintage race.
Yeah, that's a great observation there, Brian. And looking at these times, I'd say everybody across the board is improving here with Sam Hallaby, car number 145, Chris Taylor, 68. And Mark Pennisman, that's number 10. All these gentlemen hitting their best laps of the day. So this is going to be a continual theme. I mentioned earlier we have a break in the weather, and drivers are taking advantage of that. The track is heating up, warming up. So this is going to be something we'll be watching throughout the day. Obviously, I mentioned there is a storm cell that is approaching from the west, southwest. That keep an eye on the radar there. I've got it up on my screen. But just something to watch here as he's through.
Yeah, you can definitely see there goes the Alex Al machine there in that 79, a little bit further back there in that Spec Boxster, and that 79 kind of coming up the hill. And again, as the weather does look like it starts to dry out a little bit here with these guys, obviously went out on rain tires, and you can see that as the track is starting to dry up a little bit. This is where I think John Patton and Ken Agnoff, they're starting to burn off some of those tires if they went out on rain tires as this race goes on, because the rain stopped. And again, 1.5 miles here is going to set some pretty quick time as you go through here. And for a 30-minute race, when you get to the second half of the race, you're more than likely going to burn those rain tires up. Again, not able to see whether or not they did, but you can see there as they come up out of that hill, or go up the hill and up over the crest of that, tires are starting to give away a little bit in this race here. So again, you can see where John Patton now has fallen back almost 6 seconds behind the 07 there of Will Waldron. So I believe tires are starting to go away there in the race.
Yeah, Will Waldron really pulling away here. 18 laps in, about 7 minutes left, and I'm looking to my left here from the tower. There is some activity for the next race, so hard to believe we're already 25 minutes into the first race here today.
Yeah,
but it is great to see.
Yep, sorry about that. Why don't we go ahead and make our second call to the group, for our orange group. Pick back up the action. Here you go. There's John Patton in that number 3 machine, and I tell you what, he is really laboring that machine to again trying to get everything he can. Here comes Will Waldron in that number 07 machine coming through some of our Spec Boxster. That may be the Mark Constantine machine and the Chris Taylor machine getting there, putting them another lap down. So as we start to wind down this race, just under 3 minutes here, Andreas, a lot of these battles that were close are starting to dissipate. And the reason potentially that could be is when we get to the 30 minutes. And again, if they went out on rain tires, some of these drivers got everything they could at the very beginning and burned those tires on.
Yeah, the time difference, it's just under 5 seconds between Will Waldron and John Patton in the Spec class. So that's been what we've seen in the last 2 laps. Quite a difference in time there, but it is still interesting to watch. Ken Agna just a few seconds behind John Patton there. It's great to see, but I think this is what we will see unless something happens in these last 5 minutes. That's probably going to be the top 3 in the Spec class. Will Waldron, John Patton, and Ken Agna. In Spec B, a little closer. It's a 3.5-second difference, so that's something that we should probably focus on there, Brian. Robbie Wilson, the number 29 car, number 5, Noah Mazzola. That's a tight thing to watch here. I will say on the Spec 2, it's a half-second difference between Joe Dillon and Luke Pelliter. So those are number 52 and number 627.
Yeah,
let's keep a closer eye on that.
Yeah, I was going to pick that back up again. I know it's 1.3 seconds, and it just now went back across the start-finish line. That has actually opened up a little bit further back. I believe they're probably just now coming through Big Bend there, so getting ready to turn turns 1 and 2, probably coming up into turn 3 at this point with Joe Dillon in that red, white, and blue 1988 944, and then Luke Belvedere in that yellow machine right there. Last time by, I think it was 1.3 seconds. It looks like right here that they may have closed that gap a little bit further. And again, you can see Joe Dillon doing everything he can to hold that car and get the handling that he has. Those tires are really starting to go away. You see just that left side of that back end there, Andre's really kicking out from some of these turns. So again, trying to hold on. We'll see what it's going to be at the line right here. Like I said last time, 1.3 seconds. We'll see whether or not Dylan's going to be able to hold on and figure out what that lead is right now.
Yeah, that's something that's fluctuating every lap we have here. Still Will Rodgen with the best lap time here. Comes his 14th lap, the best time of 1 minute 8 seconds. So I'm going to write that one down. We're going to watch that throughout the day.
But
that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like our leaders now just got the one to go. So it looks like Will Waldron will be completing his last lap. There he goes right there, down into turn 3, getting ready to come to the backside of the straight and then head up the hill one last time. So again, Will Waldron working his last lap. He is leading overall and in SP3. John Patton second in SP3. Ken Agnar in that 57 machine in that SP3 as well. So again, these drivers really coming down to the end of this race. We'll give you guys the full field rundown, but right now, Waldron having a little bit of a battle right there. And I believe that is actually with the Joe Dillon machine. Looks like he may have just come up on the Joe Dillon machine, knowing he has a pretty big lead over John Patton, over 5 seconds. So going to take it and just now gets ahead of them. So here they come. There's the checkered flag. There it is. Will Waldron going to pick up the win in SP3. John Patton, who ran his fastest lap of the race on the last lap in that number 3 machine, is going to pick up second overall, second in SP3, and Ken Agnar is going to pick up third overall and third in SPB and SP3, excuse me, and we will give you the full field rundown. Still got a lot of guys battling here going on. Do want to try to figure out if we can pick up, looks like everybody else, other than in that ME1, Chris Bay and Gene Ramondi. That was a 10. As soon as we can pick them up, that's the silver Boxster and the blue Boxster. I think they were a little bit further back, and I believe they just came across the start finish right there. So we'll pick up that battle here as the last. There goes Alex Awe, and here they come. That is the battle right there with Christopher Fay and Gene.
A note on Will Waldron, he's somewhat of a local guy. We'll claim New York here in Connecticut. We're that close. But he's been a PCA member for many years, going from the Hudson Champlain region. And we know that he does have a strong performance in the reins. So no surprises there.
Yeah. All right, well, it looks like, Andreas, all of our cars have taken the checkered flag. Now let's go ahead and give you the rundown as we called it across the race. Picking up the win, overall win in the 07, and your winner in SP3, Will Waldron, finishing second overall and second in SP3. That is the 3 of John Patton, 57 of Ken Agnar. He's going to finish third overall and third in SPB. We move down to ME1. Christopher Fay in that 353. He's going to pick up the win. That is going to be his second win of the weekend so far. Gene Ramondi in that number 78 machine. He's going to finish second in ME1. Frank Osborne in the 313 machine. That's going to be your third in ME1. In Spec Boxster, we talked about Robbie Wilson in that 029. He's going to pick up the win. Noah Mazzola in the number 5. He is going to finish second in Spec Boxster. In third, in the last podium spot in Spec Boxster, is the 79 of Alex Awe. In SP2, Joe Dillon, he's going to pick up the win for the second day in a row over in the 52 machine over Luke Pelpetier in the 627. And then William Johnson is going